Hello, this is Dale Matthews. It's Inside News, and Mike and I are going to read to you. Hello, Mike.
Yes, this is the part you guys all look forward to. I'm quite sure. Yes,
Well,
reading back and forth.
we strive to pay attention to what's happening in local media, and there was an article a couple of days ago in the Medford Mail Tribune, and it was written by one of the reporters. I've spoken with her. It's called "Jackson County Escapes State Distressed List," and it's about a state audit that was done where they talk about the various counties, especially in our area, and how well or bad they're doing with economics. And so Mike and I are going to tell you about what it says. And it's in direct contrast with what Cheryl Walker's been saying. She has said this in a couple meetings, that we're doing very well in our area, which is then in contrast with the fiscal emergency that we're having. We're doing very well. There's no explanation for this. It doesn't make any sense, but it is what she has said. So Mike
we're doing very well. We just need more revenue.
Yeah, that's just odd. It's odd, and there's really no good explanation for it. So this is from the Medford Mail Tribune, and it says Jackson County because it's the Medford Mail Tribune, but underneath that it says Deschutes, Douglas, Curry, Polk counties, and it also includes Josephine County. So we're going to tell you what it says, and I'll start it out. Jackson County's financial situation has improved enough for it to be taken off of a state list of distressed counties, but several neighboring counties, Josephine, Douglas, and Curry, remain on the list. Mike?
In 2014, 9 counties were on the list, including Jackson County. That's now down to 4. The 3 southern Oregon counties, Polk and Polk County, which includes the cities of Monmouth and Dallas west of Salem. Others that moved off the distress list are Coos, Lane, Lynn, and Columbia counties.
Quote, our review found that a recovering economy and some strategic cost-cutting measures by our local governments have decreased the number of counties on our watch list from 9 to 4. This is encouraging news, said Oregon Secretary of State Gene Atkins, and Josephine County is one of those. It's on the watch list.
Mm-hmm. The Secretary of State Audits Division released its review of the financial condition of the counties this month. Jackson County Administrator Danny Jordan gave much of the credit for the county's improved finances to local residents who voted in May of 2014 to raise their own property taxes, to create a library funding district and an extension service district.
Now, Mike, just think about that for a second. If we only had a more powerful library, why, definitely we'd be in better economic condition and everyone would flock here and spend money and start businesses.
Yeah, I don't get it. I guess, if you want to look at this strictly from a math viewpoint, this has to be because they created a library district. Now the county is completely excused from funding it out of the general fund, and therefore that money is then available for other things, and that takes them out of the distressed category. Now, I remember when this when this was on the ballot and people voted for it thinking, and it was presented to them this way, well, it'll be somewhere between what was it, $1.20 and $1.60, something like that. But we'll never go with the 60. We'll never go with the $1.60.
How long did it take?
They immediately went 160, and people got really, really mad, and then they bumped it back a little bit from that.
It shows you where their heart is.
Yeah. Listen, what a scam. Jackson County has 16 libraries. 16. You can like go to your neighborhood library almost over there, all funded by this taxing district. And listen, I have nothing against that. If that's what you want to do, and clearly that's what they decided to do, but it's real money. I mean, it's real money. Anyway.
Jackson County's permanent property tax rate, which does not include the voter-approved special funding districts, is $2.01 per 1,000 in assessed property value. It has the 14th lowest permanent tax rate out of the state's 36 counties. Well,
Yes.
I would say Josephine County is even a little bit lower than $2.01.
Oh yeah, no, but it says it's among the lowest.
Right.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Josephine County has the lowest permanent property tax rate at 59 cents per thousand. That's incorrect. It's 58 of assessed value. Curry County is the second lowest at 60 cents per thousand. Coos County is third lowest at $1.08. Douglas County is fourth at $1.11, and Lynn County is fifth at $1.27.
Like other timber-dependent counties, Jackson County, this is on the Mail Tribune, took a major hit from logging cutbacks on federal land. Timber revenue shared with Jackson County peaked at $17.2 million in the 1989-90 fiscal year. For the current fiscal year, the county has budgeted to receive $2 million, Jordan said.
The state audit lists Jackson County among 10 counties that ate into their reserves from 2010 to 2015. Faced with national economic downturn and declining timber revenues, Jackson County used its reserve funds to support services such as development services, libraries, and the extension service. It also invested in new buildings and remodeling projects, Jordan said.
He said the building investments helped reduce operating expenses. Quote, at the same time, we got very good bids and kept the construction industry afloat during very hard times, Jordan said.
Yeah, that's the function of government. Keep your construction companies afloat. Yes. Okay. Jackson County officials are working to rebuild reserve funds and hope to someday have enough reserves that the money can act as an endowment, bringing in interest income and allowing officials to trim property taxes. Bringing in interest income. I don't know anybody out there have any money in the bank lately. For whatever interest that you're getting on your savings, you are losing it in the devaluing in the currency. If you have $100,000 in the bank, you're probably losing about 3% per year in the devaluation of that currency.
And counties are required, we know this, counties are required to go for the lowest, it seems like, the lowest possible return, because while they could maybe make more interest, they would make more interest with riskier investments, they are not allowed to do so because that's your, and you'd think that they would if they could. Yeah, they would if they could.
Yeah, and this mention of them trimming property taxes, never gonna happen. I'm from California, so I know this kind of stuff. When they first brought in a payroll tax in the state of California, it was pitched that there would be so much money that they could eliminate property taxes. Of course, they never ever did that. They did something similar. They said, we'll never ever need money from the taxpayers again when they passed the lottery for the school. I mean, it wasn't but a year or two, and they were already asking for more money. And the teachers down there, when they when they learned that they were going to be getting the lottery, they all they thought, okay, all this money is coming into our department in addition to what we're getting. And stupid idiots. They should not have thought this, but they did. And so then what happened was, as soon as the lottery passed, they all voted themselves in their union or whatever raises. And so they were all going to get raises. Well, you know what happened? The legislature down there pulled back the money that they were giving them from the general fund in correlation to the amount of money that they were getting from the lottery. So they didn't get anything, or they got very negligible increase.
Now, what do you think that it really means to be on a watch list? The only people concerned about being on a watch list are local government officials. I don't want to be on a watch list. The people, I don't think, care. Yeah. So it says all 4 counties on the new watch list of financially distressed counties, and we're one of them, despite what Cheryl Walker says, are among the counties that spend the least per capita on public safety. Oh, that's why. Okay. Jackson County spent the 12th least on public safety spending. Polk County officials are arguing their county doesn't belong on the new watch list because voters there passed a public safety levy in May 2015. Oh, well, that's all that it really takes, Mike. Once they vote for apparently. A levy, then they're prosperous, you see.
Yes, of course. No, it totally correlates. Makes sense. Among the Southwest Oregon counties of Jackson, Josephine, Klamath, Douglas, Curry, and Coos counties, Jackson County has the lowest unemployment figure at 5.4% as of April. Klamath is the worst in the area with 6.7%, according to the Oregon Employment Department.
Okay, now, of course, that doesn't count in the people who are so discouraged that they're not going to be looking for any more work, because you're going to continue looking for work in Josephine County because it's all out there, you see.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Thanks for touching on that, Dale. And what you're talking about is workforce participation rate. And what happens is when people drop out of the workforce, they're no longer counted in the statistic. So you have a whole lot of people out there that are, semi-permanent in couch potato mode, and they're no longer counted as unemployed, but those people are unemployed. We have less people, and I forget the number. It's like 80 or 90 million less people in the workforce nationwide than we did in 2008. And you should have more, at the very least more, but that's not even taking into consideration growth in population. So, unemployment numbers that are out right now, don't trust them. They're all wrong.
Okay, now one of the things that we should mention in order to be fair is that a number of local companies, we don't know what that number is, but there are some, have said that they've tried to recruit people to work at their business, but then the people couldn't pass the drug test, couldn't pass the drug test. And so now we've got 2 choices. Several actually. One is give up and leave town, leave the county. Another is stop requiring people to pass the dang thing, because that's not going to happen. And can they do the job if they can't pass the drug test? And another one is to convince everybody that they don't need any kind of drugs.
Yeah, you know what? I think you got to start evaluating people on a case-by-case basis. And are they screening people for marijuana? And marijuana stays in your system for 30 days. Listen, I would much rather have it that our entire workforce was entirely drug-free. But apparently, with legal marijuana, somebody smoking marijuana on a weekend or something like that is going to show up as positive for marijuana for the next 30 days. And, if you're wanting to, if you're stressed, if there's some sort of an issue with finding enough employees for your company, perhaps you need to relax the standards and talk to people and meet up with them as human beings and get to know them a little bit. Some of these people will be flakes, as, some percentage of the population is anyway. But certainly you're going to find that some of these people are decent workers and that you can perhaps trust them to do their job.
It depends on what kind of job it is, too. I'm not fond of the idea of having somebody drive a county transportation bus. If they're going to be smoking, on the job or right after. I get that entirely. But there may be some other kind of jobs where, my dad worked in the construction industry as one of the things that he did in his life. And I can guarantee you that every time that these guys took a break with their hammers and saws, they were downing a few beers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's a job. Well, yeah, it's a dangerous job, but who's going to propose that all construction workers can't have a beer?
Yeah, but not on the job. Listen, I'll tell you some stories if you promise never to tell anybody. Okay, this is just between you and me, Dale.
Yes.
I worked on some construction crews where there was some alcohol consumed, and some of the guys that were walking the top plate were smoking weed up there. How you do that? That's insanity. They were, tight-roping up a 2x4 truss, and sheeting the roof. Wow. That's just mind blowing to me how you can do that while you're wasted. But some of these people were just hardcore, and, I wouldn't want them working on my job site because that's an accident waiting to happen. But,
Okay. You want to read the last part?
Sure. In a statewide rankings of personal income, Jackson County did well at 37,637 per capita, putting it 13th out of 36 counties. The state audit found Coos County was 18th, Curry County was 22nd, Douglas County was 25th, Josephine County was 32nd, and Klamath County was 33rd.
Malheur County.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In stereo.
Right.
Malheur County in far southeast Oregon. Southeast Oregon? I thought that was kind of northeast Oregon. Anyway, far southeast Oregon was worst with 27,661 in per capita income. Sherman County, home to a massive windmill project near the Columbia River, was best with $58,011 in per capita income. Yeah, that's pretty good.
28,000 a year versus 58,000 a year. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what we need here? Income redistribution.
We need windmills. We need economically, ecologically sound windmills.
Yeah.
And
hey, here.
Income distribution and the socialist government.
Let's understand something about these windmill and solar projects. They're losers. They're massive losers. What happens is people make a lot of money putting them up, but they don't make money. A lot of these wind projects are going under, and a lot of the solar ones are going under. There was one of these solar sites in Nevada that just burst into flame here a couple of weeks ago.
Were they trying to show a video of a county commissioners meeting?
I don't know. I think they had some, they have mirrors, and they're computer aimed so that they follow the sun and focus those rays at a particular point to concentrate the heat. Well, apparently those got inadvertently concentrated on some area lower, and just the whole thing burst into flames and burnt to the ground or something.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. So if you subscribe for money to Cheryl Walker's theme that things are going great in Josephine County, despite our economic downturn and our economic desperation that we're having here. That things are actually good. They're both, you see. It's great when you're making one argument and terrible when you're making another argument. If you subscribe to that, then you won't find the Grants Pass City master plans to be scary at all. Here's what the city staff see. The Grants Pass City staff is on once a month on KJO, and the Grants Pass City councilors are on once a month, another time a month. So, and the host generally is like totally with them. I mean, it's like a mouthpiece, really, for the government. So here's what Aaron Kubik, in fact, the host actually said it's the Aaron Kubik show, basically, and everybody laughed. Here's what Aaron Kubik, who is the city manager, has to say about these scary master plans.
One of the things that is sort of scary about master plans, and we recently adopted back in, I think, 2014, about 2 years ago, a facilities plan for both water and wastewater. And with those, it comes with pretty big numbers. The water treatment plant facility plan was recommending the development of a new plant for the city at a cost of, anywhere we've seen numbers from $30 to $50 million, depending on what size and capacity the plant will ultimately be developed.
Now, one of the things that they've been doing is they've been sort of downplaying the numbers. They've been sort of dividing the numbers up and saying, let's sell it to people a little bit at a time, and also let's talk about the lower numbers. Take a look again at this slide that comes from the city. What it says here, it's a little hard to read, is with the potential for nearly $50 million in bond issues, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now what did this guy just say? Where are the actual numbers?
He said 30 to 50. I've heard all over the map. I don't understand why they do this. Why don't they get actual project people in there and do actual estimates so they can come up with actual money? Whenever I see, a bunch of people, and I'm criticized for saying, hey, they want to spend $300 million. Well, it's nowhere near that. Well, that's what you've been saying. If I'm to take your numbers, I end up over 400 million with just a few of these projects, and not even all of this stuff taken into consideration. So 30 to 50 million, that's different than I've heard before. And then here, this one that Dale just put up said 50 million. I've heard as high as 80 million to 100 million for the plant. So I don't know what they're doing. I would be worried about where this money will ultimately go if they do get some sort of a loan or float a bond or something like that. What is the target for this money? Is it a specific fund that cannot be touched for any other reason than the getting right of the water plant? Yeah. I would sure like to see that ironclad, because I could see that, and we've seen this kind of hopscotch before where, some money, I was just talking about one earlier, when a flood of a certain type of money comes in, then they short whatever money they would normally be putting into that department, and then they put that out to their pet projects. It's almost as though they used that extra money that came in. It's the same type of thing.
It's a shell game. They said on a previous, and you've probably seen this, some of our regular viewers have probably seen this video that Sandy Casanali and I made, and they were talking about, well, if you put money into the sheriff's department, why, that will help the animals. What do you mean they'll help the animals? Well, see, then we can take some of the money from the sheriff's department and we can put that into animal. If I want to help the little animals, then ask me if I want to help the animals, which they finally did, and people said yes. And then, what about the children? They chose the animals over the children. Now, maybe that's smart, maybe it's not, but that's what they chose, and this is America. Well,
Yes.
we purport to be. Yes. Okay. So the city council staff seems to have a hard time settling on numbers. Listen to this. It's a very little section, but it goes by very, very quickly. And see what do you think he's saying here? This is Aaron Kubik.
With the wastewater having a number of different phases at around $20 million.
What? Now, here's one of their slides. Does this look like it says $20 million for wastewater?
No, that says 108 million for wastewater.
Let's listen to him say it again.
Yeah,
with
please.
Water having a number of different phases at around $20 million.
Brother, why are you telling us about $20 million?
Well, maybe you just didn't hear him correctly. He said a number of different phases at $20 million. Well, what he meant was 5 phases at $20 million, which comes up to about 100 mil. See, so you got to learn how to listen to these people.
And the goal is to make sure that we're informed, or to make us go back to sleep.
You know what? I think that they want to put a number out there that you're going to be outraged with, and then you'll be pleased to see that it's only 2/3 of that number.
Okay.
You know, and then they'll go, oh, okay, oh, wow, thank God. Whew, it's only going to be 75 million. Wow, I feel better.
These are only the 3. This isn't the water plant now. So what are the 3 big numbers here, Mike Jones?
This is 108.7 million for wastewater collection, 79.1 million for water distribution system, which we have on fairly good authority that does not include the water plant.
Right.
And
we know that
and then
now. Absolutely.
Right. Okay, absolutely. And then the stormwater system, which of course is like street drains, I'm guessing, $46.5 million.
Okay, so then the city council, the staff, their argument is that the city council and the staff have been very active in pressing for wonderful solutions. Here's what Aaron Kubik had to say.
So those are some pretty big ticket items, the biggest ticket items the city's had to be faced with in its history. Yeah, so those are big numbers, and you know, we've been very active. This council that we have is a very active, conscientious council.
Mike, they're
So
very
those are some
active.
pretty big ticket items. The
Oh,
biggest
well, that's
city's had to.
Okay,
that's fantastic.
I hit the wrong button. They are very active and conscientious. In case you didn't know, that's what they are.
Mm-hmm. You know,
So what's the problem?
well, I mean, the problem is that never in the history, in other words, we've never done this we've never put this kind of burden on our citizens before. I mean, this is a huge financial / social experiment happening here. We're going to see what happens when you put a tremendous burden on a bunch of people who are financially stressed to begin with. We don't have a good economy happening here. We just don't. You know, I asked Bill Hunker the question, and his answer was perfect for this. And that is, you know, how do you get people to be amenable to higher property taxes? He goes, well, you know, the first thing that has to happen is you have to have a good economy. And it's true, you know, that when the economy is better, people have more money in their pocket, and they're like generally a little bit more open to spending some of that money. So,
well, the city council is leading the way because they're absolutely open to the idea of spending money. Now, Mike, what do you think is going to happen if this whole thing tanks and it doesn't work out? What's going to happen with these city councilors?
Well, I mean, they'll be, you know, perhaps they'll be disgraced, and you know, they'll be thrown out of office. That's not going to do us any good because we're still going to be saddled with the debt. You know, once we acquire this debt, the
staff will remain in charge, while the volunteers just go home.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's appropriate to try and predict what action might be taken. One would hope something unprecedented would happen, and that would be that you would clean house not only of your elected officials, but you'd get rid of some staff too. But that never happened. So.
Okay, now we talked about the active part of what he said. Now let's look at the conscientious part. You've seen this slide. This is their slide. Here's the conscientious part. Number one priority. The homeless youth shelter. Number two priority. The Allen Creek Sports Park Complex funding. Number three is maintain necessary criminal justice infrastructure, the jail, the DA, and the juvenile center.
Right.
It's the number three priority.
And what I'd like to know, because we have all these other projects, we have the urban renewal. We have, the three items that were listed there. We have the water plant. Those are all separate items. And then we have the Allen Creek Sports Complex. Can somebody put a figure on that for me? And is that coming out of the general fund money, or are we going to float a bond for that one too?
I don't think they like talking about that, Mike. Look at some of the others that are on this list after the top three, including Allen Creek Sports Park. Prepare funding package to resolve sewer issues, light up the downtown alleyways and railroad tracks, expand the wastewater plant, develop landscaping and parking at Park Street, build a new water plant, which is going to be, they said, the biggest project in Grants Pass history, in the history of Grants Pass, although that pales in comparison to these other water projects.
Yeah.
And develop a park area west of Caveman Bridge. These are absolutely the most conscientious plans that you can think of. Come on now.
Well, I conscientiously object to their.
Oh, that's what you are. You're one of those conscientious objectors.
That's what I am. I just think we don't have any experience doing this sort of thing they don't seem to care what sort of impact this is going to have on the citizens here. I am just this. I wish they would not do this.
So what is their answer when we don't have any experience? Here's their answer. You knew it was coming. Take a look at the bottom of this. They're going to hire a rate study and financial advisor. And what's that going to cost the city? What does that say down there?
$140,000.
$140,000.
Well, listen, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to tell that this is going to cost a certain amount of money. I mean, once we come up with a figure, it'll be a whole lot easier to do this rate study, because that'll be $400 million divided by 35,000 people, or however many homes or whatever.
Every man, woman, and child. That's right.
Right. You get these numbers, and then it's just a division problem. A certain amount of that, they say, is SDC eligible, which means you can shaft the people that are going to try and build something or open a new business here. And so you can pretty well figure that's not going to be happening nearly as much.
You don't need businesses for economic development, Mike. Come on.
Yes, exactly. Right. The thing is that what is required for the economic development of a government is completely different. In fact, it's antithetical to what's required to grow the economy of a city, and that is a lesser burden on these people, a streamlining of what hinders them from coming to completion on profitable ventures. That's a no-brainer. That doesn't take brains, but These people aren't concerned about any of that. These people have totally different objectives in mind. That they want to be the guy who was at the head of the project when,
Yes.
I administered over this and look at what we did and blah, blah, blah.
And that's why I'm now moving to Portland, because look at these things I did down in this.
Yes. Right.
And when I left, things were going great.
It's a resume bullet point.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Now, it's very difficult. You were mentioning about the numbers. We need the numbers. It's very difficult when you've got the mouthpieces here, including Cajo and the Courier, who keep giving us different numbers. For example, you've probably heard, I know that I've heard people say, well, we never said that public safety was our third priority. Hello, we just showed you, and we've showed it to you so many times, you know it by heart. We just showed you their slide. Here's another one. They said, well, we never said that it could cost over $100 million on one of these scenarios, depending on whether it's 25 years or 50 or 30 years. We never said that. Well, what does it say right down there? We never said that. Yeah. This is your slide.
Yeah, it's 105 million, potentially 105 million in debt. And listen, this 105 million, you must be thinking, hey, they're talking about the water project. Hey, they're talking about the wastewater thing, the stormwater thing. They're talking about this or what? No, it's none of those things. This is, these guys are drunken sailors. That's who these people are. They're drunken sailors with other people's money. And you remember what George Costanza said? He got a check from somebody else's money, and he thought, hey, maybe this fake fund, this fake charity that I set up is really going to be something where I can hand out money to people, and they'll be very, very thankful. And it's exactly what a politician does. This is what these people are doing. They're going, if you give us crap loads of your money, we'll hand it out to people, and they'll be very beholden to us, and we'll have plaques on our wall. Oh, there it is. That's the urban renewal color-coded plot map.
Right. And this is another thing. They said, we never said that there was potential targeting of urban blight down in the main drag of Grants Pass. We never said that. What does this map show you? This is their map.
Mm-hmm. Which color code is for urban blight?
Well, all the color stuff, all the black and white is not. This is where they're going to be. Oh. Now, I understand a little bit at the north end of town, but this isn't the north end of town, only the north end of town. Look at, but what they say is, we never said 105. We never said it was going to cost us. We never made public safety a third priority. We never targeted downtown. That's an X. It's literally targeting downtown. It's a big X.
I'm sorry. Listen, just give us a number, okay? They're throwing. Here's the problem. They don't have numbers. These are pointy-headed little intellectual people who have never had dirt under their fingernails, who are projecting, it'll cost this much amount of money. Get some damn estimates and bring us some real numbers. This reminds me of, some 18-year-old comes to his father wanting 150 grand to start some business, and he has no idea what he's about to do. No idea at all. But just give me the money, everything will work out. That's who these people are.
So
no.
They've been very active. You're going to love this clip. Now, this is from Cajo. This is the city staff explaining our future to us. And here's what their active participation has been. You got to listen fast because it goes by quickly.
We're active in such that we are tackling a number of things that haven't been tackled in a number of years. And it's showing from things like public safety to criminal justice system at the county level, to coming up with permanent funding solutions for different activities.
They're tackling they're tackling public safety at the county level. The city is.
I didn't know they were doing. Yeah, I didn't know they were doing that.
And what else did they say? They're also tackling permanent funding. Does anybody have any idea what that means? Gee, I wonder what he means by that.
They're working through back channels, aka SOS, to secure permanent funding. That's what they're doing.
Well, okay, so listen to this, which will explain what's over my shoulder here, and we'll do the best that we can to tell you my take on it anyway. Mm-hmm. Here's what the city staff says about what's going to pay for all this. How's this going to be paid for?
Primarily, where these revenues come from is they come from our ratepayers, your utility bill, and also through system development charges. And system development charges are established to try and bring in revenues that are and help with infrastructure that are impacted by growth. So growth will help pay for some of these. And those master plans are projecting growth out into the future. System development charges are important to have to help offset the costs of the ratepayers when growth comes in.
Now what's that?
Yeah. Well, but there's a problem. And that, if I'm going to move somewhere, the cost of me doing that is a factor. Now, already we have an issue where we don't have a whole lot of businesses that want to come here and set up shop. And there has to be reasons for that. And adding money to the cost of doing business is not going to help that at all.
Well, you heard what's happened during our interviews when I mentioned that Mark Bartholomew, the city attorney, said that the city can revoke your vote at any time. There are people who are not convinced that he said that.
Well,
Roy Lindsay said he never said that. Our elected legal counsel for the county said, and he was in the room along with Roy Lindsay, said he never said that. Now, wait a minute. We were there with cameras. We know what he said. It's part of the if you've got people who aren't going to tell you what the actual numbers are, that deny certain things happened. You got it on tape and part of the court record. No, that never happened. We don't stand a chance, Mike. We don't stand a chance.
Well, one very important thing that Mr. Kubik said, and pay very, very close attention to this one. There are two things. There are our ratepayers. That means your water and sewer bill. Okay. And what you need to do is take the entire amount that they're borrowing and find an amortization calculator on the internet that goes that high, for like $300 or $400 million. That's what you need to do. And then you put it in there and you find out how much more a month they're going to need, and divide that by the number of homes in the city limits, and you're going to find out how much more you're going to be paying. And it ain't chump change. It could be $2,000 to $5,000 more a year. Okay. If they're getting their ultimate dream wish on this thing here. So now some of that is offset by SDCs, system development charges. Okay. Some of that is offset by it, but only if they meet their growth estimates. They have received these growth estimates and they're cheery and wonderful. Well, what if it doesn't happen? If it doesn't happen, who are they going to come to for the rest of this? So this ratepayer is kind of like some of these guys wish the Constitution was a living document. It will change as needed because the interest and the principal must be paid.
Now, I ask you to listen to his statement again after taking a look at what the Securities and Exchange Commission says is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. I'm not saying that this is, but it comes dang close to being a Ponzi scheme. And according to the SEC, a Ponzi scheme is an investment fraud that pays existing investors with funds collected from new investors. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's listen to what he has to say about the idea of how the new things are going to pay are going to take the burden off of the old
Primarily,
ones.
where these revenues come from is they come from our ratepayers, your utility bill, and also through system development charges. And system development charges are established to try and bring in revenues that are and help with infrastructure that are impacted by growth. So growth will help pay for some of these. And those master plans are projecting growth out into the future. System development charges are important to have to help offset the cost to the ratepayers when growth comes in. So as new business comes in, new development comes in, the system development charge is there to help keep the utility rates down and to provide an equitable way of sharing the cost of the infrastructure that's already established.
Now, does it sound to you as if what he's saying is we're going to pay for the growth with more growth?
Yeah. As I said before, a lot of people, a lot of developers, they make choices on the basis of whether, how much money they're going to be spending for, their given project. And, if this project is going to be very, very expensive for them, they may just decide to do it somewhere else where they can do it for less money.
A Ponzi scheme is when what you do is you say to the first people to come in, or maybe you don't tell them, the new people that come in pay for the first people who were there. And you've got to keep growing. And as long as you keep growing, then you can pay all these bills. But as soon as you stop growing, the last people that come in are the ones that really get screwed over.
Right. Well, and if the growth never materializes because of the specter of looming debt, then it's going to be a problem almost immediately. I just think, listen, you don't do this. This is like doing. We all know what happens when you set up a Hong Kong. You get unbridled economic growth that just takes off like crazy. This is the opposite of that. Okay, this is bizarro Hong Kong. This is going to be what happens when you place as much burden on people as possible, and granted, we're not as bad as some of these cities back east that are charging outlandish property tax rates for some of their citizens. But the bottom line is that it already is not a good economy. I don't care who you're listening to that's telling you otherwise. The economy is not fantastic. If it were, people would be a lot more open to this kind of thing. But so we are going to find out what happens when you place a tremendous burden on people when they're already in a down economy. And listen, there's a lot of people out in the county who vote no on property tax rates because they can't afford a property tax increase that would only be, say, $200, $300, $400 a year. Well, in the city of Grants Pass, we're talking $2,000. That's probably going to be the low end of your increase. I've done the math here. That's going to be the low end.
Whenever I'm having trouble making up my mind about which side to go with, and I look at who's lying to me or who's obscuring the facts. And when you've got staff people that are telling you, well, it's 20, well, when you take it in little pieces, are they trying to be transparent? Are they trying to be honest with you? Are they trying to let you compare the costs in an honest, open way? Or this whole thing about, well, this is an awful lot of money, it's pushing up toward in the general direction of $500 million toward that. Okay, it's toward that. It doesn't mean it's there today, but with time and all the rest of that. So, well, let's take that and divide it up into lots of little parts. Now, why would they want to take that and divide it up into lots of little parts? You heard him say on this show, because we played it back, we'll get the courier to help us explain the need. Yeah.
The problem is that it's not going to matter to people that it's a whole bunch of little parts, because all they're going to see is one part, and that is the bill that's broken up every single month that you're going to be paying, and it's going to be tremendously more money. And listen, we've heard rumors. I don't have any solid fact on this, that the water plant doesn't need to be replaced, only repaired. And, I wish the person, someone wrote about this in one of the letters in the Courier. I'd like to know, who this person is, who walked through there and gave them this assessment, or is that just something that you made up and you're saying? If indeed that did happen,
there's a lot of this
if indeed it did
stuff.
Right. If indeed we only need to repair the water plant, then let's repair the water plant. But you know what? These people are not happy with the Toyota when they can buy a Mercedes. That's what we're dealing with.
Now, we've also heard it said, and this was Arden McConnell, I hope that I'm quoting you correctly here, Arden, that when the city finally got back to you and explained some of the questions that you asked at that meeting, she was the only one who stood up. One of the things that was said to her is, they don't have to push this to the people. We already know we know for certain that that's absolutely true in some things, and that is that SDCs and water fees and this kind of stuff, the fee they put on your bill, they don't have to check that with anybody at all, except just themselves, the staff themselves. This is all they need to do. They never put that up for any kind of vote.
Right.
And when you're a volunteer going to all the meetings that they go to, the city councilors go to, if you quit, so what? I mean, you're just a volunteer. You won't have this wonderful power anymore, but the city staff is going to stay forever and ever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
So they can just do it. And Mark Bartholomew's probably right. They could revoke your vote at any time because they didn't need to give you the vote in the first place.
Well, I think it would be nice for them to lay all these projects out, get a number, and let's put it on the ballot. Find out if people want to do it. They know what the result of that's going to be. They know the result.
Yeah, this is why they're talking about the Courier is going to explain the need.
Okay, but who are they serving, for God's sakes?
That's a good question.
Do we have any say anymore as citizens of the city, the county, the state, the country? Do we have any rights anymore, or must we just swallow through one end or the other what government wants to do to us?
Well, let's be honest about that. Okay, with the audience, with ourselves, let's be honest about that. What do all of the indicators so far show us about whether we can have any effect, and whether we just need to split? I mean, what all of them are there things where we've seen little projects, yes, but big ones just turn around and go another direction because we said we don't like them? Even little ones, the logo thing. Yeah. We made it absolutely perfectly clear. This is why I think of that as a bellwether. This is why I think of that as a canary in the mine shaft. I know it's a small thing. We were absolutely crystal clear with these fellas what we wanted and didn't want. And so what are they doing?
Yeah. Yeah, the reaction was unquestionable. They put this stuff out on Facebook, and it was nearly universally panned. I mean, just nobody liked it. There was a few people, but
after meeting, and letters to the editor and calls into KJO for those who would waste their time doing that. All these different people were saying no. Even the TV stations were here, and people were saying I hate this, but they're doing it anyway, even though they know what your reaction was. They know it. They're still doing it. To me, it's indicative of the entire system. That's a small thing, and they can get away with that. But they're now going to do it to the tune of how much money? This is a lot of money, and they don't need to ask you. Now, they probably would like to avoid a lot of letters to the editor or phone calls or something like that, because that makes them a little uncomfortable. But when push comes to shove, they're going to do the pushing, and we're the ones that are going to get shoved.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, on that cheery note, please have a happy rest of the evening. It's only Thursday. There's another day in the week, tomorrow, and we'll be here with Lily Morgan, and her show will be about why you should not vote for Bill Hunker and vote instead for Lily Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. Good night, everybody.